morning. For those of you who are interested in knowing what I'm listening to today, this is a new album that just popped up on my Spotify release radar. Album is called Please Don't Cry by Rhapsody, spelled Rapsody. So that's what I'm listening to. I think it's a really cool album so far. There's a lot of storytelling elements woven throughout the narrative progression of the album, and it's really cool with audio snippets and just the lyricism and also the little different guest features. A really cool variety of artists. You don't have to do Spotify. I'm sure you can stream it anywhere else, but it is a new release. May 17th, yeah, so released as of yesterday. It has 22 songs lasting 65 minutes total, so that's what's in my ear. June, you are the first person I've ever watched live a few years ago. Anyway, how are you feeling? I'm okay. We're gonna cook some stuff today. I have to test out some Sichuan peppercorns, and I bought some veggies for $1. The dollar bags are still going, y'all. If you live in Woodside, that store is still selling dollar bags. They have gotten smaller, but $1 is $1 is $1. So we're gonna cook some stuff, and I made some like cacao date truffle fudge thing last week, and I never made them into balls, so I'm thinking we can roll some into balls and I can snack on some stuff while I ease into cooking. I'm pretty tired, and we're gonna move a little bit slower today, but I thought I'd go live as I hang out in the kitchen and you can join. So happy to see you all. I'm still not in the, I don't know how anyone can be in good spirits these days. I'm getting used to being in bad spirits, so it's a new low, it's a new normal, for better and for worse. I'm trying not to feel too much sadness or guilt or residual grief about how our lives and our world is developing, and I think really gauging what's going on with my body. There's a lot of aches and pains. I'm almost positive a lot of it is long COVID, but I'm also very positive that a lot of it is just the psychological stress of everything that we've gone through in the past 7+ months, and it's a lot. So seeing grandma and doing breathing exercises for her and tuning into our bodies is a really nice mindful practice for me as well, to pay attention to all the different lags, stresses, tensions, knots within my own body, and to just use breath and touch and this sort of like allowance for blankness to take over, to rest for however temporary an amount of time, but rest is essential. And I know that with my lackluster sleep patterns, I have probably shaved off at least 10 years of my original lifetime expectancy, but so it goes, you know. I think every day the only thing that really, really, really fundamentally from the root helps me cope, helps me live, is actually coming to terms of acceptance of death and having a conversation whenever it pops up in my brain with myself about how it is okay if I die today, and it is okay if I die tomorrow, and yes, it will be sad, and yes, there will be a lot of business to maybe take care of after my death that will land in other people's hands, like my mom's death caused, but that is also all okay. I survived my mom's death, and other people will survive my death, and we will all die. It is just witnessing, I think, the pain and the torture and the manufactured atrocity that is really irredeemable. And I think it takes a while to digest because it is ongoing. So with that being said, truffles? I basically bought a tub of dried dates and then I blended up some of the cacao nibs that I bought from Mexico, and I put some cardamom in there, which the hulls are still in there, but we're gonna try to make balls out of these and we're gonna roll them in spices or sugars or something. So I'm gonna do that for maybe 15-20 minutes, and I might work in silence so I can listen to the album that's playing into my ears right now, but I'll also be peeking over at chat, and you can talk amongst yourselves, or you can ask me questions, and if I see them, I'll answer them. Happy to be here. Happy to see another day of this world. Hi, Canada. You love this floral top? I got this top from a Uniqlo in Beijing when I was teaching abroad in 2012, I think. It's been cropped by grandma, so it used to be longer. So, damn, this shirt is 12 years old. Huh. Sometimes artists put their whole albums on YouTube too, so if you don't have a streaming platform that you can access without ads, that's also possible. YouTube for me has been working with an ad blocker. It might work for you too, but I've heard from other people that ad blockers don't work anymore. Spotify on desktop sometimes works with an ad block, but sometimes it doesn't for me. It's like everything just costs more these days, and I truly don't know how we're expected to keep paying for all of this shit. It's a little mind-boggling, actually. I think I'm gonna roll them in spices and sesame seeds. I don't really feel like rolling it in sugar will help it stay. We're gonna use our fish spoon. Or maybe we won't need to coat them in anything, actually. I also hope that you guys are using AdBlock on my videos too. Like, you don't need to be wasting your life watching ads. I don't need the money from YouTube anymore. I just know that whether or not I monetize these videos, YouTube is still going to put ads on them. To the best of my knowledge, I think that's true. If I'm wrong, let me know. But please don't feel guilty about turning on AdBlock for any of my videos. I don't fucking care. Just make the most of your life and do what makes you the most happy. Most of the money is going to middlemen anyway. It's not going to the artists. It's not going to the creators. There's no ads on lives while the live is happening, but I think when you play back the lives, there are ads. Did you know that I used to want to be a flight attendant so bad? I really feel like I take after my dad, who I feel like has a very nomadic lifestyle and personality. And I do wonder, had my mom died and grandma wasn't in my life, what I would be doing right now. I would probably have gotten arrested at a protest already. There were some protests that were a little more high risk that I opted to not go to because I didn't want to be arrested and then detained for at least 24 hours sometimes. Seems like some people are not being released within the legally mandated time period for detainment. So all the rules are going out the window. I think these last 6-7 months have illustrated that, like, rules are for the ruling class to keep you in line. They're not really to protect you for the most part. Sometimes they will protect you just to keep up the appearance that these rules are for us, but so just keep that in mind when you feel like you're being a bad person for breaking decorum or breaking courtesy or breaking rules. And I used to feel, in the beginning of these 7 months, really guilty for doing stuff that feels good to me, but doesn't seem like it's for the greater cause. But I've also learned that there are many forms of ways to support and be in solidarity. And also self-care is community care at a very fundamental level. You have to keep yourself sustainable in order to keep anyone else sustainable too. And also there are a lot of actions that involve things that you naturally, organically enjoy, like art forms, painting banners, creating pamphlets, graphic design, writing. So just integrating it into your lifestyle in a way that feels enjoyable. Oddly enough, it's coming from a need that isn't enjoyable at all. Genocide is not enjoyable. Oppression isn't enjoyable. Injustice is not enjoyable. I mean, for some, I guess it is, but how do you turn this into something that is enjoyable on some level? How do you make the medicine nourishment? It is like having a pimp. Capitalism makes us all prostitutes. People used to laugh at me when I was like, we're all sex workers. Obviously, we're not all literally sex workers, but in a way, we get pimped out. That's what the system does. We're all just selling pieces of ourselves, our artistry, our bodies, our manual labor, our attention, our time, our space. Also, just seeing new music come out that acknowledge everything that's wrong with our world is very healing to listen to and to be in and to take it in. It helps me digest. We're not looking for reciprocity. It's like, I keep thinking back to when my dad told me that, like, when you loan money, like, you don't loan money, you don't lend people money, you just give them money. And it's just like, whatever you give out into the world, make sure you can afford to give it out and not have anything returned to you. And just understand that if the world is currently not an environment that is conducive to supporting you in the ways that you need, then you might die if you don't find those sources of nourishment that you do need. And I think the hardship for all of us is struggling with this, how could this be the world that we live in? It's like this deep sense of social and existential betrayal, of feeling like, oh, this is the world? Like, how can this be the world? Like, this can't be the world. And it's the stages of grief. You know, it's the anger, the denial, the bargaining, the acceptance, and it fluctuates back and forth over and over again. The cycle of grief is not a once over, it's a repetitive Sisyphean journey where you don't even know where you're going sometimes, but you can decide for yourself where you stop. I also feel like, yes, billionaires as hoarders, they need mental health help. In the early days of the assault on Gaza, I likened the state of Israel to someone with narcissistic personality disorder. All the classic traits, if you look up traits of narcissistic personality disorder, the way that the state of Israel gaslit all of us into what they want us to believe, their denial of responsibility. There's a lot but it's so on point. Our world is mentally ill. Our structures are mentally ill. We are not the mentally ill ones. It's not an individual thing. It's kind of all of us, all around us, all within and without us. So part of this learning is also feeling like, oh, I'm not the broken one actually. Like, or at least I'm not the only broken one. Like, this world is just broken, so how can I not also be broken? And just accepting that has been helpful for me. I don't know what will be helpful for you, but it at least brings me a layer of peace. It's exhausting, y'all. Like, and you have to let yourself feel the exhaustion without blaming yourself for it. Please don't blame yourself for anything, or, recognize that when you do see yourself blaming yourself, that you're doing your best and you're struggling, because this is like such a sad state that we live in right now. And we're all seeing it for the first time at this scale because we have technology. We have the social media and the immediacy to see things as they're happening now. We used to too, but at this rate, at this expansiveness, like, we are being assaulted by our own advancements, literally and figuratively. We're being assaulted by images, by reality that is so distant from us, but is so also immediate to us because it's right there in our hands on our phone screens. And we are being assaulted by no health care. We're being assaulted by police. We're being assaulted by lack of education and social protections. People in Palestine and Sudan and Congo are being violently assaulted and slaughtered, like, made possible by so much resources put to the task of destroying people and land. And it's just like, this is why I don't actually respect our species, and I don't actually respect the way in which we worship science and advancement, because I think when you worship something as superior, like we have been with science, like science is the knowledge, is the objectivity, like, that's when you start to let go of other senses of being alive and trusting your other less visible, less tangible truths. And that's how you end up in a world where there's only one right answer to things, and everyone else is wrong. I am stuck in the exhaustion as well. You're not alone. I feel that too. And I think for the first 3 months of this year, I was extremely, extremely frightened. I didn't know what to do with my body. I was like, maybe this is long COVID, maybe it'll go away. It has been almost 2 straight months of me experiencing just persistent knee pain. Like, my knees ache all the time now. They don't feel relaxed or normal. I'm always conscious of their presence. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to go see a doctor. So over the last 4 months, 5 months, I've just been slowly submitting myself to this new reality of, I will be hurting always, and we'll just have to start normalizing this pain, because if I don't, then not only am I experiencing the physical discomfort, I'm also bringing this psychological fear into myself, which then perpetuates and intensifies the physical ailment. So in a way, I have to just let myself feel it and let myself accept it, and also let myself accept the worst case scenario. If I do have some sort of a degenerative condition kicking in or a long-term disease formulating, then okay, worse things have happened, right? It is a daily reminder for myself on how to practice gratitude, not for the sake of being a good person or for practicing gratitude, but just it's almost like medicine to practice gratitude right now, because if I don't practice acknowledging what I'm grateful for, then I sink into despair. So reminding myself of what I'm grateful for is a lifesaver in a lot of ways. It reminds me of why dying will be sad and painful, because there are things that make life worth living. And if I can just use my time to see how many people I've gotten to know over the past few years who care about the world, who care about me, who care about their family and friends, knowing that despite that our world has turned into this all-consuming machine of just blind greed, that there are so many people in my life who know what it means to really be alive. Like, that's life. That's why I'm so sad, because I know it's possible, and I see the alternative being the one that's most resourced, and being the one that's most violent, and being the one that's most destructive. I'm sad and I'm angry because I know we could do better. And I'm sad and I'm hurt because I don't understand why people could still be signing letters right now to tell Biden to give more money and more weapons to Israel. My own representative in District 6 of Jackson Heights, Grace Meng, Meng is her last name. So much money from AIPAC, like $350,000, according to a post I saw yesterday from AIPAC. Signed her name. 24 Democrats signed a letter to Biden to ask him to send more support to Israel. I'm gonna drink some milk tea that I made because my energy's really dipping. I made this, I haven't tasted it yet, but I made this with pu'er tea, which is kind of dirty tasting, earthy tasting. I'm developing a taste for it. I don't love it yet. There's also some Chinese red sugar and a cinnamon stick and apple peels. So this is, and milk, obviously. So this is like a very strange milk tea. But let's taste it. Cheers, y'all. Doesn't taste bad at all. I can taste the apple peel. Nice fruity brightness to balance out the dirt-like qualities of pu'er. Nice and milky, nice and sweetened, a little bit tannic from the long steeped tea. Good balance. The U.S., does the U.S. help Palestinians too? Sure. Biden says he's giving money to send aid to Palestine, but Israel just blocks all the aid. The US is also giving money to Israel. Like, how can you give money to both sides of the conflict? If you're gonna help Palestine, you're not gonna fund Israel. Period. That's it. The end. So no, the US is not helping Palestine. The US is destroying Palestine. That's why it hurts. To live in a country that can't give its own people health care, to live in a country that spends all of its money on police and military presence, both domestic and international, to live in a country that survives on conducting terrorism while saying it's a democracy. Like, what a state of gaslight. The whole US is a gaslight culture right now. It probably always has been, to think that it has been founded on genocide and slavery. What do you expect out of a country with those origins? The principles that it's founded on is purely in thought and never in practice, not for all, only for a select few, the ones who want to be there. This is not the first time the US has destroyed a whole people. This is barely a new thing. The US has always fucked up other countries. It's a world leader because it's a bully. You can only get to the top by stepping on other people. Which is why I don't really understand the whole culture of success. What is success but the exploitation of other people that you're not giving credit or a share of the production to? Like, constitutional republic, yeah, it's more a republic than it is a democracy in political form, but it likes to say that it is, you know, the epitome of democracy. It certainly isn't. Most Americans right now do not support the assaults on Palestine. Politicians that claim to represent us do not listen to us when we approach them in person. They do not return emails. They do not pick up their phones. They do not respond to anything that we're telling them. The US says a lot of stuff. I was just telling my uncle about all of this, and he was telling me about how my mom always thought, like, the US is so good because it at least has freedom of speech. Like, that's where it differs from China. But clearly you don't have freedom of speech anymore. Palestine has shown us that the US does not prioritize freedom of speech when it deconstructs capitalism, when it deconstructs profit, when it deconstructs power. The hierarchy of power, the hierarchy of abuse, the hierarchy of enslavement. Like, we live in feudalism in a lot of ways. We're confined by what our lords allow us to do. We live in a sort of slavery as well. A lot of people can't afford to not work for the people they work for, even though they hate their jobs, or they hate their bosses, or they hate their company's mission, because they need to live. They need to have money. You know, like, the amount of abuse that people endure at work to keep that job that they don't want, like, it's not as drastic as the extreme violence in actual slavery, but existentially, I don't think we're free. And I think that's what they mean when they say Palestine is freeing all of us. Because through what we're witnessing right now, because of the assault on Palestine and the Palestinian people, learning about the history of how long the assault has been going on for, learning about how empires work, learning about how capitalism works, we're seeing so much that we can't unsee, and we're learning so much, and we're starting to understand, like, oh, this is the system. You learned about it in theory, but now you're experiencing it, and it's horrible. Joke about it all you want, but like, I have friends who can't find jobs, and they keep saying that like unemployment is low, but all I can say is I have friends who can't find jobs for a very long time. You know? I've never seen so many friends talk about how expensive everything is. Friends that I have thought about as like pretty financially secure and sustained. So it's not just you. Yep, exactly. That's what I told my uncle, Siobhan. The reason unemployment is low is because more people are working in jobs that don't pay enough. I'm like, I have friends who are super qualified. They're not going to take jobs that pay minimum wage, but they might have to now, because if you're out of a job for close to a year, what choice do you have? If you're going to run out of savings to use, you can't hold out for that long. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I think things are going to eventually get bad enough that people will do things. That's just the way history goes, right? And if we never manage to learn from history, then we'll repeat it until we learn. And sometimes we'll learn too late. Sometimes we will learn too late. How long do you guys think you'll live to? Because I used to think I could live to like at least 60, but now I'm just like, I don't know, if I make it to 49, I'll breathe a sigh of relief. I'm 34. That's 15 years from now. A lot of shit can happen in the next 15 years. Wait, just the last 7 months. Have you seen? What do you think will happen in my life in the next 5 years? Any predictions? Tell me all your thoughts, good and bad. No judgment, just curiosity. It's funny that you say that you definitely need to eat less meat, because this week I started eating more meat. And I was talking to Aaron, and he says that he tested anemic on his latest blood work. And I'm starting to think that maybe I might be anemic too, and maybe that's why I'm so lethargic and lacking energy lately. I don't know, but it might be a long COVID symptom, but I think I might have to start upping my meat intake a little bit just to see if it helps. You think my life will be a shit show until I reach 41, or the world will be a shit show until I reach 41? I got gotta be honest with you, like, I don't think I've ever been so at peace with myself than I am right now. And I'm exhausted, but I think this is a sort of peace too. I'm trying to understand, maybe there are so many different forms of peace, just as there are so many different forms of love. And even hate can be so multi-toned. So I'm learning still what this piece is, but I appreciate this, at least having this. My Dark Night of the Soul lasts 10 years? Holy fucking shit. My mom died when I was turning 32. I have 10 years of Dark Night of the Soul? Good God. Do we ever have any idea of who we're becoming though? Isn't that both the thrill and the terror of life is you don't know who you're becoming, you don't know what's going on, and you're just like, fuck, what is happening? I can't wait to eat these because they're so filled with caffeine. Those cacao nibs have so much caffeine in them. Just like unadulterated chocolate, essentially. I think about like the evolution of things too, the rise and fall, you know. I think about Budget Eats. I think about the viewership that I had. I think about when I first started going live on this channel with Aaron, and I started thinking about how I thought of that move of going live on this channel as like a career suicide, because I would be the me that I wouldn't have been allowed to be on the corporate, you know, venue. And I think about like the excitement of taking departures from your perception of identity, of yourself. Sometimes it's forced, you know, like I didn't know my mom was going to die, and the ways that I've changed since she died, drastic, I think. I don't think I'm the same person anymore. And I was actually just talking to Aaron yesterday. We were texting, and he was telling me about how like he's not the same person that he was when we first met in China. I mean, we first met in China in 2011, you know? 13 fucking years ago, almost. So, I mean, thank God we changed. I don't want to be the same person for all of my life. That feels so exhausting. I want to be refreshed and renewed and refurbished. Yeah, we graduated from college in 2011, and we both went to do a teaching fellowship in China after graduation, and that's where we met. We met at teacher training. People are scared. People are scared to change. I get it. I wouldn't have changed either if I didn't have to. So sometimes, you know, I guess force is the only way, but also force is part of nature. Nature is force. Have you thought about how, like, a lot of animal sex is just rape? And this is a conversation that I had with Aaron like years ago about the human construction of rape, the human construction of law, the human construction of morality and rules. Meanwhile, nature is just like, trigger warnings. What does that do for us? What does that do to us? Why do we have it? what is the point of it? What are we trying to protect ourselves from? Can we protect ourselves from those things? Is this just an attempt to protect ourselves from something that we can't protect ourselves from? Why do we need to have protections in place for things that we can't protect ourselves from? Why do we give ourselves this illusion of being able to be protected from things like harm and hurt and injury and death and aging? In a way, we are also torn down and worn down by the last 7 months because our society has fed us this narrative that, like, yeah, we have social protection if you follow these rules. But actually you don't. They can take it away from you at any time, just like being a worker that's not unionized. Your company may be a great employer until they don't want to be a great employer anymore. And if you're not unionized, and if you're not organized as workers, as a collective, with collective power, then you will have no say in when your benefactor turns into your torture master. What happens when your 1-year warranty runs out and your phone breaks? Tough luck, right? Yeah, we'll guarantee you safety and protection for a limited time only. And they'll give you the bare minimum. They'll time it so that your phone breaks down right around the 1-year mark. They'll time it so that they pay you just enough that you don't complain every day, but you complain a little bit. They'll make you feel grateful for what you have. Because look at other people who have less, so clearly they're not the worst ones. All right, truffles, yum, complete, kind of. Okay, I'm gonna put them in this box. We can eat them throughout the next week. I can pick out some to eat now. That was way longer than my proposed 20 minutes. Of course I lied, the world is lies. I am no exception. Three by 5, 15 plus 8, 23 balls plus a mini ball that I'm gonna eat. Perfect. That only took a week for me to do. It's just been hanging in the fridge. The bitterness of the sesame seeds blends really nicely with the bitterness of the cocoa. Cacao? Cocoa? Words, language, nonsense. As I talk about social brokenness, tomorrow, May 19th, will be the final day of composting services at our farmers markets in New York City because the mayor has decided as of last November that we don't have money to continue composting programs for the city. But we do have like $60 million to give to police in overtime alone. The composting services have only been extended until this week because of a anonymous benefactor donating money to keep the program running for 5 more months. But now the money is running out, so no more composting at our farmers markets. We love this world. Yes, cocoa prices are going way up. Climate change, bad crops, also just like general social disorder, supply chain disruptions, all of it. Like, get ready to say bye to a lot of things that you took for granted, basically. First dollar bag is some Kirby cucumbers. I was thinking we could just wash these and chop them up and put them in the pickle jar and make more pickles. It wasn't the only thing that he cut out of the budget, by the way. He also cut out weekend hours at libraries, probably some budget cuts from schools as well. You know, the usual suspects of things that we could actually use, but never mind, we just want more police. He actually did cut police too in that budget cut, but reports have just come out that since October 7th, we've paid police almost 53 or 58 million in overtime alone, so budget cut police my ass. I cooked some liver last Monday, so I've been eating some liver. That was the meat that I've been eating all this week. I don't know if it's done much for my energy levels, but I did appreciate having an alternative source of protein, nutrient. I actually don't know how much protein is in liver, but I do enjoy eating it, and I'm hoping it helps with my maybe anemia that I won't get confirmed because who knows how much a blood test is going to cost me uninsured. And yes, I do have money to pay into insurance, which is a $500 to $600 monthly premium with an annual deductible of about $4,500. But I just don't want to pay that because I could just be using that money to put better food in my body, not have to go through the exhausting maze-like healthcare system in America to get mediocre answers and almost no solutions for indiscernible long-term issues. So I would rather be able to just live rather than pay to prevent death, if that makes sense. Here's the pickle jar. My hydration, great question. I think it's been good, but somebody told me that he thinks I'm not hydrated enough. But I also pee a lot, so I'm drinking enough to pee a lot, which he says could also be a sign of dehydration. So I don't know how I can win this, honestly. If I just drink and I keep peeing, I guess my body is just not able to retain water. Not sure, guys, not sure. We're gonna taste these cucumbers a little bit first to make sure I'm not dropping like bitter shit into the pickle jar and contaminating everything. I go donate blood, I can get a free blood test, is what you're saying? At least for anemia? That's fun. That's a great tip. Yeah, my pee is usually a good color. Sometimes if I wake up from sleep and I didn't hydrate right before, it'll be extra yellow. Let's see. Today is May 18th. Guys, I'm happy to report that it only took me, holy shit, this proves the theory correct. Today is almost to the day 4 months since I was dumped. I feel like I'm 92% over it. I read a theory, maybe back when I was like just starting to date Aaron, that the time it takes for you to get over a relationship, if you were like really into the relationship and like invested, you know, is half the amount of time that you were together with that person. That's checking out. So I actually gave myself a timeline of when I got dumped, that the first 1 to 2 months will be the hardest, and it was. I basically cried for 6 weeks straight, like daily, multiple times on most days. And then I think I finally calmed down after 6 weeks, but I still felt like pangs of missing him and like an analyzing like what's wrong with me, all of that shit. And 4 months is mostly moved on. What a beautiful color. Yay. How long did your relationship last that you're still lost after 3 years of breakage? Damn, girl. Do you want to, if you want to share, if you want to have like any sort of group therapy, if you want to talk about what makes you feel lost, we're open to it. I'm open to it, at least. I can't speak for everyone else whose faces I can't see and voices I can't hear, but I am open to it if you want to. If you want to move on. Here's the thing. You have to want to move on. You have to want to let go of this idea, this summary, this analysis, this fantasy, this illusion that this person was your person. for me, because I got dumped, it was easier for me to come to that conclusion, because clearly the person did not want me enough to keep me in his life in that capacity. So eventually I had to acknowledge that, hey, he didn't want you as much as you wanted him. So next up, we're going to be processing some onions. I was thinking that I can stir fry and cook most of them, pickle some of them, and then use it just as I need to. Yeah, I mean, 35 years of marriage, like, that's fucking rough. My mom was married to my dad for about 30 plus years. I don't know if she ever recovered from that breakage. That broke her. I hope you're able to really, here's the thing. Every time I go through a breakup, every time I feel down, I find that actually watching YouTube videos, like therapeutic YouTube videos, podcasts, is more helpful for me than actually going to individual therapy. So that's what I've been doing, and it's cheaper too. And what I've discovered for myself is a lot of sadness is because you want to hold on to the memory of something, and you want to hold on to this idea of being able to achieve perfection without acknowledging that the world just naturally goes through cycles of breakage. And maybe there's some sort of guilt that I feel for witnessing breaks in my own life. But like recently I was watching this video where 4 relationship therapists were all on a panel, or maybe 3. I don't remember the other lady, but it was Dan Savage and Esther Perel. It was an excellent discussion. And Dan Savage made this great point where he was like, you know, why do we think of a divorce as a failed marriage? Is the only successful marriage, I'm paraphrasing obviously, is the only successful marriage one where you like end up dying together, you know, or like one person is so old you lasted the entire lifetime and then they finally die and like that's a successful marriage? And he was like, obviously rhetorically asking that, he was like, if you end up divorcing somebody after 20 years and you learned a lot about each other and you learned a lot about yourself and you raised kids together, and why aren't we able to consider that to be a successful marriage just because it ended up being in a divorce? Like, so kind of like realigning our perception of what a success and what a failure is constantly something that I think we're all negotiating with. How we make ourselves feel bad because we feel like we're not measuring up to some sort of standard. Just trying to be mindful of that, trying not to like bully ourselves because we were told by other people we should be this. So then we feel bad when we don't do that. Just questioning the values that were handed down to us that might not actually be good for us. And not everyone can perform to the same standards, and maybe not everyone wants the same standards for themselves, you know? I think Dan Savage got a really bad rap. I'm not a fangirl of him or anything, but I think he has some great ideas that I don't disagree with. And I think it's always interesting to listen to perspectives that are new to me and that maybe like make me go, what the fuck are you talking about, you know? And actually giving them a chance, because it brings me out of my current self. And if that's something that you want to do, to bring new angles and layers to yourself, then it could be helpful to hear some other people out. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to take them as gospel or anything. Yeah, my mom was totally broken by her marriage dissolving. I think she felt like she was a failure on so many fronts, and like she blamed herself for a lot of it too, and it was just really sad to see my own mom go through that. She lost so much weight after she and my dad split. Involuntarily, you know, like I don't think she was out to slim down. I think she just, from the psychological impact of it all, she just like broke. Yeah, I didn't follow Dan earlier. Like clearly I read some stuff when I was dating Aaron in 2011, 2012, but I was also like so not aware of what queer identities were at that time, so I would not have been able to pick out any of his more sus and questionable takes, but you know, I think everyone can be redeemed if they own up to their mistakes or their misinterpretations, just as long as they are not like full of themselves all the time, you know? I mean, I said some bad shit too. Damn. Who hasn't? But like, do we practice forgiveness, not only towards others, but towards ourselves? And do we allow our past to constantly define who we are now? Not to say that you forget the past, but just, you don't have to be committed to it, you know? So dirty after me mopping barely a week ago. This is how much maintenance is needed to keep your life in order. No wonder we're so exhausted all the time. Damn, it's so dusty. Okay, my album just finished. And this is the current song that's on here, which I also love. I don't know if you can see that. It's called Masterpiece with a period at the end of it. The artist is Iman Europe. Love it, love it. Okay. The less I give a fuck, the more I feel free was a lyric just now. Just adding some salt here. I replaced Julia Childs? Oh my god. That's... I don't know. But yeah, man. Divorce, death, they're all a kind of grief. It takes a while to feel period, but feel yourself, feel the change coursing through yourself, letting yourself change. It's a lot. It's so disorienting and tiring and scary and so much to process all the time. Chef AJ in her interview. Okay, interesting. my goal today is not to caramelize these onions since I have still more to cook. I don't have enough time to let them fully caramelize. But once they start turning mostly translucent and less white, I think we're ready to pull. Kind of like grilled onion texture. That's pretty good. Yum. Mmm. Onions. If only they didn't make my farts so smelly, I would eat them so much more frequently. Why would I have contempt for mayo? It's such a wonderfully creamy, lightly seasoned, friendly to play with all other ingredients. It's just like the perfect mouthfeel condiment. Absolutely no notes for mayo. It's so chameleon-like. Mayo is amazing. In fact, I don't know. Mayo might be my favorite condiment. If I could only have one, tell me, what condiment could be better than mayo? Like, fuck chili crisps, just give me mayo. If I can only choose one of those. Mayo is OG, man. When my mom made potato salad. In fact, I think mayo is called salad sauce in Chinese. This is like the last of my olive oil too. Damn. This is one of my favorite songs that just came on. It is called Make Friends by, I don't know how to say it, but Hiatus Coyote, maybe? That's the album cover. Um, the main line that repeats is, you don't make friends, you recognize them. So bad at tossing. Sad. No, Jazz. You gonna get fired. Welcome to the club. You know why they're not talking about Palestine? You know. We all know. Did you see the president, the interim president at one of the UCs got put on leave, aka basically fired, I'm guessing, because he agreed to the students' demands for divestment? He wrote a whole letter about how he actually decided to hear the students out directly. He went to them twice over 2 days, 2 different days, and he thought they were very civil and logical and reasonable, and his email basically said, you know, like, as people of this society, we should be not supporting the pain of other people, and like he got put on leave. So your disciplinary thing, oh, and he got called insubordinate, which was also what Delish called me. So I think that's just corporate speak for, you're talking about something that we don't want to hear about and is absolutely not sustainable for business as usual. So goodbye. Jazz, are you prepared to be fired? Is this the hill you want to die on at your workplace? Because if you are, all power to you. I mean, that's what I did. So, but just, you know why they're not speaking up about Palestine. See on the live. I die today, would you come and kiss my cold face? The song is called Die Today by Earth Gang and Spillage Village. Yeah, would you? Would you come would you come kiss my cold face if I die today? Asking for a friend. Guys, I think what we're learning right now is these businesses are going to try to eke as much money as they can out of us, and eventually we'll just, the wealth gap will become so clear that like the systems will collapse on themselves. I don't know how long that will take. It might not be within our exact lifetime, but close enough. So just, you know, decide for yourself what you want and what you don't want, and it's okay. Your life will change, but it will not be worse. It might just be better if you live without certain things that you're used to having. It's just evolution. And evolution is natural. Yes, I'm meal prepping. Basically, I bought a bag of $1 onions. There were like 4 or 5 onions. And I know that if I don't cook them all today, they're going to probably start growing soft and rotting. So I like to prep most of the ingredients that I buy within the first 2 days of buying them, because my record is once the week starts, I'm going to be less motivated or be more pressed for time, and I'm just going to keep delaying processing them. So today I'm cooking the onions. I'm going to save a little bit to cook with today and tomorrow and maybe Tuesday, and then the rest I'm going to freeze, and then I can defrost as I need to use them. That's it. That's what I'm doing. So I'm stir frying them with a little bit of salt and pepper, not caramelizing quite, but just going until they're like slightly translucent. I'm really glad I listened to that album, because the recommended list that's playing right now is pretty great. I think 3 more minutes on this batch and we should be good to go. And I'll start cooking some Sichuan peppercorns to test how good they taste. I have some liver. I also have this tofu that I bought when I was out with Samira. So it was only $1, and I was like, oh, why is it so cheap? And Samira was like, maybe it's a new store. And I was like, but maybe it's also because it's expiring June 1st. I don't know if I've heard of Forever Story, but I do listen to JID. That name definitely looks familiar to me. So this says it's a medium firm. It looks more like a silken soft. Fascinating. mean, Debbie, that's the whole thing, right? They manipulate the system to a point where we can't sustain playing into the game that they've set up to exploit us through, and then their own systems falls through. It's because, like, late stage capitalism, or capitalism in general, the trajectory is not sustainable, right? So that's what we mean when we say, like, solidarity is really the only thing that matters, because once you start pitting people against each other, it's only a matter of time before the system collapses. You're not working together. You're working against each other, and eventually that's going to result in wear and tear and destabilizing your own interests. You can't just win. You have to win and lose. And as long as you are stuck in this paradigm of I'm either winning or losing, then you've already lost, you know? Because if you can't win, then you will lose. And you can't win all the time. It's just not the way things work. So they think they're winning, but they're actually creating their own demise. Which is why making peace with death and making peace with loss is essential to survival. It's sad. It's sad because they think they're winning, but they're actually just playing into their own insecurities and manifesting their worst fears. They just don't see it happening yet because they're myopic. They're close-sighted, you know, nearsighted. They don't have glasses on. So, it boggles my mind that people are still having babies who don't speak up about shit like this, because what kind of world do you expect your children to live in? Grace Meng, my representative, she has 2 children. She's signing letters to tell Biden to send more weapons to Israel. She's a mom. Her kids are going to grow up in this world, so she's expecting her kids to follow her footsteps of killing other people so that they can get money. I don't know, man. Something is not checking out. I don't get it. Alright. I'm taking out more onions because I can't eat this much onions and I have to seat people later. So I can't be farting in their faces like that. But let's make some Sichuan peppercorn stir fries. Just a little. So I took out most of the onions. I'm gonna fire this back up. I have a mix of green peppercorn and red peppercorn in the spice grinder, which you can't see. There you go. I'm gonna bloom some of that Sichuan peppercorn right in there. And then once I smell it, I'm gonna put in some cooked chickpeas. And we'll just taste it and see what that flavor is. I'm basically testing to see if this mix of green and red Sichuan peppercorns is tasty. That's it. Hi, Lisa. I'm not doing much more than anyone else who's trying to stay alive, but I appreciate the appreciation. Right back at ya. It's cool to be a human and to be able to define yourself. for as long as you can. And then we die. That's it. We were born to die. Lana Del Rey was right. Homegirl was right. So just think about how you want to die and how you want to live before you die. That's all. That's all there is to life. It's not that complicated. I'm trying to get these chickpeas a little bit crispy. Oh, we should cut up some carrots. Oh, but I also bought these eggplants. Oh, we should cook the eggplants. Because they're not bueno, because they're $1, so. Survival is about finding alternatives when your current path leads you to a dead end. That's what adaptation is. So keep adapting. And think about it as a game, because it is. There's no use in taking yourself so seriously anymore, having seen all that we've seen so clearly over the last few months. This might sound cynical and pessimistic and hopeless, and to a certain degree, you're not wrong. But also, I think if you walk the road of cynicism and pessimism long enough, you will find hope. You will find a peace that isn't afforded by pure optimism. At least that's what it feels like for me. So, don't be afraid to be a little sad. It's a muscle. Turning off the heat. Such good songs. This is another song from Earth Gang called Imagine. Imagine no lines at the DMV if healthcare was actually free. Freeze the cooked onion, because I think when you freeze water heavy stuff like onions, this is something that I learned from Alton Brown from the original Good Eats days. The cell structure of water crystallizes when you freeze it. Think about water turning into ice, and those little splinters that you see in the ice, those are crystals. And when you turn water content into crystals, they become sharp. And that punctures the cell walls that was originally the structure of the plant. And then when you defrost it, those cell walls have now been punctured, and once the ice turns back into water, the whole vegetable kind of just turns soft, right? So that's probably why when you see like frozen spinach at the supermarket, when you defrost it, it's already like shriveled and compacted, right? It's a really good deal because it's basically already been cooked down in a lot of ways. You see other things like corn and peas, and they retain most of their shape, but even the peas, when you defrost it, they look shriveled too, right? Because they've shrunken since all the cells were punctured and they're no longer plump and round. So that's it. Oh, this song is spicy. This song is called Ezekiel's Wheel by Eric the Architect and George Clinton. It's got some spicy lyrics. A lot of things also change taste after it's been frozen. Like, for example, never ever freeze egg yolks. They just don't melt the same way. They stay kind of in that congealed format. So, you know. I'm going through the rest of my olive oil today. That's it. I don't think I'm going to be buying olive oil for a while, y'all. The prices are insane. I'm readying the pan for our eggplant stir fry. We can make different flavors, maybe. Why not? Let's play a little bit. It's been a while since I've treated myself to cooking for fun. But let's clean the eggplant first. Yes, you can definitely blend some things after you freeze them to homogenize the texture, but just know that you're altering the texture forever. You can't really undo the freeze damage in some ways. My mom used to make me eggplants. Wow, I totally forgot about that. I wonder how she made them. Definitely with garlic. Oops. All right, first round. A little bit of onion back into the pan. Heat back on. We're gonna make some Sichuan peppercorn eggplants. But this time we're gonna add in a little bit of white pepper. Yes. So I think white pepper is really good with Sichuan peppercorn. Let's get a little taste test going. Really nice to bloom your spices in the oils for just half a minute to a minute. Releases some of their essential oils and toasts them so that they don't taste. Sometimes I feel like untoasted spices can almost feel dull or even like plasticky in their mildness. But if you really want to revitalize and brighten them up and like tap into their inner souls, do a little preheat. A lot of cooking experience is just learn through mistakes and trial and error and like fucking around basically, you know? I don't really, like, I probably should have salted this eggplant before putting it into this pan, but I didn't plan for any of this. So the eggplants aren't going to taste as tasty, but that's fine. They just won't taste as tasty. What do you mean frozen bread should be illegal? Frozen bread is actually quite good. What kind of frozen bread are we talking about? Probably the eggplant would do so much better with more oil. But one, I don't want to eat that much oil, and two, I can't afford that much olive oil right now. I have like canola oil. Oh, I also have some sesame oil. Maybe just a touch of sesame oil. You're not really supposed to stir fry with sesame oil since it burns. It has a much lower smoking point. But clearly we're not following rules today. Eggplants are kind of like mushrooms. They kind of just absorb all the oil that you put in the pan. Sponges. I'll slap a lid on a jar. Turn the heat down a little bit. Then we can process these other eggplants. I always freeze bread to prolong its lifespan. I prefer frozen bread over refrigerated bread any day. Refrigerated bread is a huge no-no in my book. It dries it out, it makes it hard. The only thing you can do with refrigerated bread for the most part is like bread pudding. Something that involves rehydrating it. So I'm a huge fan of freezer bread for sure. I basically do what Mia does, but I just I don't do the parchment in between. But it will make your life much easier if you slice it beforehand, because then you don't have to defrost a whole block before slicing what you want out of it. A little bit of garlic powder because I don't have crushed garlic. I know, sacrilege. Also, this is a delightfully sexy instrumental version. Cute. If you don't listen to Black Odyssey, highly recommend. It's spelled BLKODYSSY. I don't think there's a song I don't like on one of their albums. They're all good. I'm cooking until the eggplants turn mostly translucent. Any white left in the eggplant, sometimes it can feel a little astringent, especially if I didn't salt it beforehand. So that's what I'm doing. Alright, let's give the taste of chickpeas a try. All the eggplants continue to cook. A little burnt onion here and there. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Nice. Slightly bright, slightly soapy, slightly citrusy. Numbing comes in later. Very, like a wave of flavor with this combo. I think what I need to do for the next batches is actually test the greens and the reds separately to really be able to discern what the difference is. So let me clean the spice out. I'm going to turn the heat off because I'm afraid of it burning while I'm turned away. Which has definitely happened more than once before. It's dropping shit everywhere. Using a damp paper towel, we're just gonna wipe out the spices a little bit to clean the grinder up to get a pure flavor. All right. Red Sichuan peppercorns first. I will have a bit of grinder noise, so you've been warned. This is the red on its own. Didn't know I was going to be using this many bowls today. Here we are. All right, this is a mixed eggplant coming out. We're going to cook with red peppercorns next. Basically, I'm just cooking these iterations of eggplants and chickpeas to understand the different flavors of these spices. Gonna wipe out the pan a little bit. Not gonna go too crazy. Back on the fire. Olive oil. Onions. Red Sichuan peppercorns. Bloom it. No white peppercorns in this batch for now. I just want to discern a little bit of the peppercorn flavors in this. Let's try this eggplant. This is a mix with white pepper. And sesame oil, right? Yeah. Okay. And garlic powder, right? Yum. I like it. But let's see if I like the red and the green separately more. I have to line them up in a row so I don't forget. Ooh, that Sichuan peppercorn is definitely catching up to me. LOL. My mouth is gonna be so numb after this. We will still add some garlic to this batch though, to not divert too far from the flavor profile of the first. That's what capitalism makes us all feel. Just feel it. Get cooked. Mold on bread also forms way faster when it gets warmer outside. So usually if you buy bread in the summer, you should probably be a little more diligent about freezing it sooner rather than later. I would recommend freezing it at the latest on the second day, because it really doesn't get fresher as the time goes. Definitely starting to feel some fatigue. So we're gonna drink some more tea and eat another truffle. Alright, turning the heat off on this batch. You know once there's 3 onions getting completely blackened that the pot is probably fine. Any point beyond that, it's not just getting cooked, it's getting super caramelized. So, I'm seeing black onions, and I think the eggplants are fully tender. Just not creamy. Let's have another truffle. Palate cleanser. It's telling me that I have to do it vertically, but can you see me if I'm horizontal? It's giving me an error message if I'm horizontal, but I don't care about the error message if you can see me horizontally. Woo! It's a miracle, y'all. Y'all can see me. Our red Sichuan peppercorn eggplant is done. We're gonna move it out of the bowl. Hooray! Okay, now we're gonna blend the green Sichuan peppercorns. They're so pretty. They smell pretty, they look pretty, just pretty. It may not be much to you, but it's maybe everything to the families that you're trying to help. So that's all we can do. I'm putting some tahini on the truffle. Tastes amazing. Damn, those truffles taste amazing with tahini on them. Something about the bitterness just coming together so perfectly. Hello, welcome to the live. Okay, I am rejuvenated by our truffle break. Here is the green Sichuan peppercorn ground. Beautiful color. Not sure if you can see that at all. Yum. Smells super citrusy, super bright. I am looking forward to cooking this last batch. I'm gonna wipe the pan again. I know I'm reluctant to wipe away the last of my olive oil remnants, but just for experiment's sake, gotta start with a semi-not reflavored pan. It is expensive to get people to safety because they don't want people to get to safety, because the whole system is a system of corruption and bribery created by another system of exploitation. It's just rounds and rounds of exploitation. Of course they're going to make it as expensive and impossible to do as as they can, because it's just like their goal is to commit genocide. How do you commit genocide if it's going to be easy to rescue people? You can't. I need to find my other spice jar. Here we are. Alright, green Sichuan peppercorn. Oh, I didn't add, you know what? I didn't add garlic to the last batch of eggplant. So I guess we won't be for this one either. We'll just see how it tastes. And I didn't really pre-measure the amounts of peppercorn that went into these batches either. So that's not very accurate, but this is why I no longer work in recipe development. That shit was just not for me. But sometimes you have to try things to understand. I am listening to a song, I joke you not. The repeating line is, "Get you some of this coochie." Alright, cool. It's a cute song though. Hilarious. You can almost see the hint of green covering the eggplants. I colored the oil green. What a delightful ingredient. So some salt. Turning the heat down. Slapping around. Finishing our truffle. And then I'm going to cut up our leftover liver so we can reheat it. That Gucci song was by Yaya Bay, by the way, if you were curious. Once the eggplants are softer, I smush them to help them break down the cell walls even faster. This is purely to cook down on the cooking time because I'm lazy. I don't think it's very aesthetic to break down eggplant structure like this. You probably want to retain it whole, but degas mode right now. Now and forever. So I don't think that anyone who's not a mod can post links. I think that's just a YouTube feature. It's not something that I made a rule. So I don't know if your link is gonna post actually, but if you wanted to like copy and paste the video title, we can search for it. I don't mind you sharing links in good faith, but I think YouTube just doesn't allow for it unless you're a mod. Sorry about that. House rules, and it's not my house. While that's cooking, we're gonna eat our red Sichuan peppercorn eggplant, no garlic powder because I forgot, and no white pepper, which was intentional, but let's see how it compares. Overall kind of sweeter than the mix. Interesting. Here's the mixed pepper with garlic powder and white pepper. They're all good. Just different. I wonder if you guys have seen recipes that use both red and green Sichuan peppercorn. Because I don't know if they're used together. Ooh, that numbing. Ooh, that numbing. Ooh, my mouth is salivating. Sichuan peppercorn is kind of like the BDSM spice, where it like whips you around a little bit, and makes you slobber, and makes you lose control of your muscles. Like, you obviously can't see my salivatory glands right now, but like my mouth is just like, here's some spit. It's gonna keep coming. Kind of feels like I'm drowning in my own saliva a little bit. So if you're into being gagged, Sichuan peppercorn's your girl. Yes, they are onions in the white bowl. We par cooked some onions. This is about $1 worth of onions cooked. Oh, it makes my tea taste so weird. It's like a sensation on top of a taste. Makes my whole tongue feel like the thinnest layer of ice is freezing over as the liquid pours across the landscape of my tongue. This is one of my favorite songs off of the album that I was talking about at the start of the live. The album name is called Please Don't Cry. The artist is Rhapsody, R-A-P-S-O-D-Y. And one of my favorite songs on the album is called D&D, parentheses, it's not personal. You love the septum piercing, you want to get one, but the open one. Okay, the horseshoe one, that one was $300 versus this one, which was like $105. I could not. Turning the heat off on this. The reason being, the horseshoe one with the two balls on either end, it just has more metal in it, and I want it to go all gold for preventing any kind of allergic reaction on my nose. And because it's gold filled, it's just way more gold, so it was triple the amount of price. And I was just like, sounds like a lot. Maybe one day. I do feel like this is a really nice baby ring, like a first ring. So it's like there, but it's not like I have a septum piercing. Look at my septum piercing. It's just like I got my septum pierced. See? Wait, can you explain this? You said apparently closed piercing means you're dominant and open means submissive. Is that in the BDSM community? Is that what the... What? This is the first time I'm hearing about this. That's interesting. All right, our Sichuan peppercorn testing is done. For the next reheat, I'm just gonna put a little bit of onions in the pan with our leftover liver and with some chickpeas. And we're just gonna cook something for ourselves and not testing. Which means we're gonna go in with some garlic. Black pepper. White pepper. Whatever Sichuan peppercorn is remaining on our grinder lid, because waste not, want not. Liver is already cooked. I'm just gonna reheat the onions and chickpeas first and get those warmed up, and then we'll throw the liver in last minute. I also want a little MSG in here because my gut is like MSG, and I'm like, okay. No other reason besides that. a little bit of celery leaf. This was a sample. A little bit of Mom's 5 Spice that I've been using mostly for Grandma's food, but I should probably use some too before it's all gone. Maybe not. Maybe just a little. The liver is already salted. Oh, guys. I should put a tomato in here. I just feel like tomato would taste good with onions and liver. What do you think? Doesn't matter what you think because I'm doing it anyway. These are also $1. This is a Finamil from Burlap & Barrel. I had to write a newsletter on it, so I got it. It's like an electric grinder. I can show you the mechanisms of it after I put this tomato in first, because my beans and my onions are burning. Okay, let's let that cook down. That's gonna add a little bit of umami too. Ooh, yum. This feels like it's gonna be yum. And I was just thinking about how to deglaze the pan of all of its yummy brown bits. I feel like tomato is quite perfect without adding too much liquid. Okay. This is the Finamil. It's an electric grinder. You basically press one button and it grinds out the spices. It has a pop-out pod like this. I just ran out of salt. You open it like so, and then you can pop in more salt, which I'm about to do, or any spices really. It's like, the only downside to it is like it's not a fine grind and it can't grind all spices really well because it gives you more of a coarse grind. You can adjust how finely the ground is by twisting this clockwise to tighten for a finer grind, or counterclockwise for a coarser grind. But the best part is if you have arthritis or something and you can't like grind or grip, then you just, whoop, well that didn't work very well. Okay, I need to close that a little bit better. Please hold while I rescue my salt from all of my stir-fry dish. That's gonna be a salty ass. But yeah, basically it's like a one-button grind. So a lot of people like to use it when they're cooking meat or if they have arthritis. You just pop it in. Make sure your lid is on and screw tight, not like what I just did. And then it just grinds it out like that. not gonna throw the livers in now because I'm a little afraid that my salt accident made the dish too salty. So I'm just gonna use this more as like a condiment, and I can add in stuff to adjust for the added salt. But I'm gonna turn the heat off now. And I wanna clean up my stove, which is looking a mess. And then we can taste the green peppercorn eggplant, finally. Here is the green Sichuan peppercorn eggplant. No white pepper, no garlic. Okay. I think my favorite might be the red. But I think the flavor actually changes depending on how cold the dish has gotten. So I'm gonna let this one cool a little bit. Oh man, my mouth is sizzling. Let's eat some plain tofu to calm down. This is not medium firm at all. This is like soft silken. I think I want to use this in a smoothie, maybe. Actually, let me try a piece of liver on it. Here you go. Here's a Michelin starred plate. Oh, my mouth. My mouth is so weird right now with all the Sichuan peppercorns. Oh. Everything tastes weird now. I need to give it a second to recover from the stimulus of Sichuan peppercorn. Sichuan peppercorn is very dominant. It just demands attention from you, especially if you use it in the amounts that I have. But here's our chickpea. Yum. Tofu is an acquired taste both in terms of texture and the lack of flavor inherently. Tofu has to be something that I think if you're not used to it, seasoned really well, and you have to be prepared to be introduced to a different texture. If you're approaching it from the mindset of this is going to be a familiar food item to me and you've never had it before, then yeah, you're going to be put off by it because it doesn't have a similar texture to a lot of American foods. Like the only texture I can think of, if you're eating silken, it tastes like a panna cotta in texture, a plain one. It feels like a low-fat version of ricotta in terms of flavor, like mozzarella. If you're eating like a medium or a firm tofu, it tastes like somebody defatted mozzarella and left behind a hint of like the milky flavors. It's made out of soybeans, so it's gonna have like that beany creaminess, but not a dairy creaminess. So I wouldn't, it's like basically solidified hummus if you think about it. But hummus is so flavored with garlic and olive oil and tahini that like it's also not the same. But think of it as a bean cheese, you know, if you make cheese out of a bean. A lot of people don't like mushrooms either. It's a texture thing. Some people don't like the taste of mushrooms because they're not seasoned strongly enough and you're just not used to it. Like you sometimes need to get used to things. That's all. Yes, freezing and thawing tofu will give it an even more exaggerated spongy feature that makes it work amazingly well as like a fried chicken substitute, or great in soups because it soaks up all the soup flavors, great in stir fries. It's just a different texture. Just play with it. You can also freeze and defrost tofu, squeeze out all the water, break it up into huge nuggets, just organically formed nuggets, and then toss it in a lot of oil and spices and roast it. It's gonna be like a crunchy little meat roast almost. You're not supposed to eat tofu plain. It's gonna make you gag. It tastes like a wet towel sometimes plain. Like, that's all. Mm-hmm. Yum. Okay. The flavor is good. It is too salty. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna cook all the tomatoes in here that I bought. One less thing for me to worry about throughout the week, and it'll also dilute the saltiness a little bit. And I think after I do that, I'll leave you off for the day. I think I've distracted you enough today, no? So, I think my computer just ran out of battery too. We're gonna try a sliver. tomatoes. I mean, for supermarket at least. Just a little mealy, but perfect for cooking. That 5 spice is coming through really nicely with that tomato taste too. 5 spice has a little bit of like a sweet, licoricey, I guess. Sometimes there can be fennel in there. But it's got like a sweet stone taste to it. Like the way that apricot is sweet, you know, there's like a little bit of a perfume, a little bit of woodsiness, a little floralness. But 5 spice is a little bit more of like a dried apricot floral, not like a fresh picked flower floral, like a fresh apricot. It also depends on what 5 spice blend you are using, of course. There are different varieties. Before I go, let's subject our taste buds one last time to the delightful tortures of our 3 Sichuan peppercorn experiments, so I can have a final assessment of what I like most. Red is sweeter, green is brighter and fresher and perkier. The mix is very interesting. It doesn't pronounce the flavors of Sichuan peppercorn as like straightforward. There is a sort of muddiness to it. Wow, these are so different actually. I was not expecting it to be this different, but they are. And I have to eat it really fast because my taste buds get worn out so fast with these. The red is definitely friendlier to the palate. The green one demands more of your perception and attention. folks, I think that's it. Liver's going into the pot. We're gonna coat it in the tomato juices and let it marinate. And I'm starting to choke on my saliva again. So I'm just gonna clean up. I think this is pretty much the end of our cooking segment. Thank you for joining. For 3 hours? Wow. Oh God, the saliva. Whew. It kind of feels like I'm choking. Like my throat is like, here's some saliva to get rid of this thing that you just fed me. And then my throat is like, slow down, I can't swallow this fast. It's not nausea though. It's more of like a panic, like, oh my God, how do I stop this? But it's cool. It's a sort of meditation. I think, unfortunately, I will be eating more onions than I intended to today. So good luck to the people that I'm hanging out with later. I'll try to gain some distance when I feel the processing happening. Occupational hazard of gas. So for visuals, this is the green, this is the red ground, and this is the blend. Cheers. See you guys another day. You take care. Eat your vitamins. Get your sleep. Drink your water.